Hi everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. For those watching for the first time, welcome. My name is Dan Pardo and this is episode 9 of Pardo's Turn, my weekly Wednesday web series where I do a little song analysis from a music director's point of view and perhaps shed a little light on what makes the gems of our musical theater canon so great. Today, you are in for a real treat. Danny Gardner, New York's leading song and dance man and all-around good guy, is on to perform and discuss the iconic title song from what I consider to be the greatest movie musical of all time, Singing in the Rain. Danny starred in Dames at Sea on Broadway and Lady Be Good at Encore's City Center. He also played George M. Cohan alongside the Rockettes in the New York Spectacular at Radio City and has been seen on regional stages all over the country, including in several productions of Singing in the Rain. Moreover, Danny and I are old friends, having grown up doing theater together in Reading, Pennsylvania. In a rainstorm, you feel just a few drops at first, then a few more, and a few more, until a light drizzle escalates into a full-on torrential downpour, before the clouds disperse and the storm dissipates just as unassumingly as it began. The form of the song, Singing in the Rain, follows that same trajectory perfectly. At the start, it introduces a simple chord progression that functions like a holding pattern, until the wordless vocal begins. He sings the first verse, begins the second verse, and then literally dances up a storm until it peters out. The songwriters, Arthur Freed and Nacio Herb Brown, give us nearly all the information we need for the song in its first 5 seconds. Every note of the melody is contained within the parameters of 1 octave, prescribed by the first 2 pitches of the song. I'm sing, and the rest of the notes are attended to in short order, first dancing down the pentatonic scale, and then back up. For those keeping score, Pardo's Turn has analyzed one song with a pentatonic melody once before, our inaugural episode for Old Man River with Chuck Cooper. If you haven't seen that one yet, do yourself a favor, it's a good one. And once again, the 5-note pentatonic scale is being used to musicalize water. Only now, we've moved on from rivers to raindrops. And then we dance. The arrangement is joyful and straightforward, starting off with a modulation down a step, oddly enough, and then following the general form of the song with soft shoe rhythms that are magnified and heightened by Gene Kelly and Stanley Donen's celebrated choreography. From the lamppost tableau to the umbrella work, to dancing on the curb, to splashing in the puddles, it's a perfect marriage of music and movement captured on film and just as captivating 66 years later.
Hey Danny!
Hi Dan, how are you? Thank you so much for coming on.
It's my pleasure.
So I'm trying to remember, did I pitch Singing in the Rain, or did you pitch it, or did we kind of both simultaneously pitch it?
I don't know. I may have. Well, I was doing it. I just did it on Long Island, so I was probably thinking about like, I'm doing that right now, so I might as well do it.
Mm-hmm. You know? And that was you've done it at least 3 times now?
Twice. That was my second time.
You have this show that we've done, Dancing Man.
Yes.
Which is kind of the Gene Kelly and Fred Astaire. These 2 roles, these 2 personalities have been so influential to your career.
Yeah.
How specifically has Singing in the Rain kind of fit into that puzzle?
Well, my grandparents always loved movie musicals, and so we used to watch them. We'd go over to my grandfather's house, my grandmother's house, and we would watch, Bye Bye Birdie or Singing in the Rain, and I think that's when I really fell in love with tap dancing and that kind of magic. Gene Kelly and Donald O'Connor, specifically in that number, Moses Supposes, I was just blown away. I mean, it's so good, and it's so fast.
Yeah.
If you try to do the original choreography at that tempo, it's breakneck. Now, they weren't wearing tap shoes. Okay. They don't wear tap shoes. Very rarely did they ever wear tap shoes in the movies.
Did they dub in the taps later?
Okay. They dubbed in the taps later.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So they don't wear character shoes. So they had a little more grip, but still, the amount of like movement they get in that number is just amazing.
So the choreography in Singing in the Rain is Gene Kelly is credited as the director and choreographer. Is
yes.
When it's licensed out, do people do Gene Kelly's choreography the way they would do Jerome Robbins' choreography or Michael Bennett's?
Not so much. I think because it was actually Gene Kelly and Stanley Donen were the director and choreographer. I think usually because it started as a movie and it only became a musical in 1985, I think so, yeah. It was kind of done, and Twyla Tharp did the choreography, so it was very different. But because it's so iconic, I mean, if you do Singin' in the Rain and you don't have a lamppost, it's kind of, I think the crowd will be disappointed. You know, as a song and dance man, you kind of learn it, and once you learn it, you know it. And as you'll see, when I do the choreography, some of it is original and some of it is not, because, at the one point he has like, there's a railing, or, that he sweeps the umbrella by and a big sound, and you don't have that. We didn't have that.
I love how so much of his, you think about tap because it's such an oral dance. You're hearing it as much as you're seeing it. And the great thing that he does in the movie sequence is use the sounds of the rain to create a musical palette, and with the splashing and the scoop, all the stuff on and off the curb, and then the puddles. You really hear it as a part of the music, which is great.
Absolutely. And the first time I played the role, which was about coming up on 2 years ago in Chicago, I I had lunch with Don Correa, who was the original John Lockwood on Broadway.
Yes.
But I also did research. I love learning the history. Singin' in the Rain basically was kind of a jukebox musical because Arthur Freed and Nacio Herb Brown were songplayers back in the day, and Arthur Freed became the head of MGM and said, "I want to do a movie about my songs," because he was the king and he could.
Right.
And so he said, "I've always wanted to do a show called Singin' in the Rain." So he called Compton and Green and said, "Here are my songs, make up a story."
Wow.
And they didn't know what to do, and so they figured out this,
It's so funny because, most people dismiss jukebox musicals as, it's like, oh, well, it's this flimsy story to service these assortment of songs. And the reason I think Singin' in the Rain always goes to the top of the list when you consider movie musicals, or movies, period, is because the story is so good. It's this really great romance, and it's a really great song and dance show, and it's a really great indictment of Hollywood, and it's funny, and it's just perfect.
Yeah.
And the fact that it was kind of reverse engineered makes it even more amazing.
Right. Exactly. I mean, it really is. And the title number, Gene Kelly didn't know what he was going to do with it for the longest time. And then Arthur Freed came in and said, "Gene, what are you going to do with the title number?" And he said, "Well, I'll be, singing
in the rain,
in the rain, and I'll feel happy again." And Arthur Freed said, "You don't have anything, do you?" And he said, "Nope." It's interesting also because originally the lyrics don't say dancing.
Okay.
It's only singing, only singing in the rain. And then Gene Kelly was going over the lyrics, and he said, "Oh, what if?" Because he didn't know what to do with the number. He said, "Singing and dancing in the rain." And that opened up a feeling of joy. Yeah. And he said, "Where am I the most joyous throughout this story?" And he says, when he finally realizes he's actually in love with Kathy.
Yeah.
And after that, then it was a watershed moment. So that's what kind of led him into it. It's just a beautifully joyous number that is celebrating love.
Yeah.
If you follow the story, I'm going to get a little extemporaneous now, but if you follow the story, at the beginning, Don Lockwood, the Gene Kelly character, is pretty upset. He has everything he wants, professionally, but he's not happy. And it's a really interesting story to think of it that way. You think once you get to the top of your career, you're going to have everything. And he's not happy. And then he meets this woman, Kathy, who says everything you have is fake. You're a shadow, and he's actually hurt for the first time. All the women he talks to are usually just falling over him, and there's this woman who's strong and independent and calls him on his stuff. And so he slowly is intrigued by this woman, and they meet up again. And then, right before this number, this is why this number means so much to me, he loses everything again. because he sees the talkies come in, and he sees himself on film, and he realizes, Kathy's right. I'm not a good actor. I'm horrible.
Yes.
And he loses everything. And then they devise this plan through Good Morning, and they say, oh, well, what if Kathy dubs?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a great, it's so quick, but he says, no, Kathy, no, I wouldn't let you do it. You'd be throwing away your career. Like, he knows what could happen.
Right.
And she says, it's not about me. It's about you and the success of the Dueling Cavalier. She's willing to put her livelihood at stake for him. And I think that's the moment for me, every night when I would play the role, that I thought, this woman is selfless, she's doing this for me, and I really love her. And that's the moment when he realizes, oh my gosh, I can be in love again.
Yeah.
And even the lyrics say, I'm happy again. You know, it is that moment where it is, and once he, kisses Kathy and he says, really, from where I'm standing, the sun is shining all over the place. Mm-hmm. It's just, you just cascade into this, oh my gosh, I'm in love with this woman and she's amazing. Yeah. And it's just beautiful. It's simple and joyous.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure.
This
I'm
was
happy to be here.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thanks.
So if you like this episode as much as I enjoyed doing it, please like, subscribe, share, comment. Do you have anything that you'd like to talk about coming up?
I'm doing a concert in Weehawken on the Monday the 28th. I think it's the 28th, August 28th. And yeah, look out for Dancing Man. It's a cabaret show.
Great. And you've co-conceived that with?
Yes, with Drew Humphrey, my partner in crime.
Great. And did Drew direct that last Singin already?
Yes, he directed and choreographed it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So was some of that the choreography that they'll see some of Drew's work?
Yes, a little bit, yeah.
Great. Thank you. See you next Wednesday.